Hey everybody, and welcome to my latest video. Unfortunately, it's a sad occasion that I just discovered the news of, and as a fan, if you can't tell over here, that is my Dark Shadows LP. Um, Here we have my Dark Shadows IMAX poster, and over here we have my Dark Shadows Mondo print. I'm a fan of Dark Shadows, and I grew up watching it. Even though it had aired prior to my birth for about almost 10 years prior. But I grew up watching Dark Shadows, and one of the best characters and best actors in the show was John Carlin, who we just lost, I found out today, due to congestive heart failure. John Carlin played originally Willie Loomis in the series, who was the, for want of a better term, the Renfield to Jonathan Frid's Barnabas. And Willie was not a nice guy at the beginning, but would become kind of the heart and conscience of Barnabas in the show. And their relationship was fraught with fighting, beatings, all kinds of things. But Carlin would go on to play numerous other characters in the show, because that was one of the things that they did with time travel and alternate universes. But Willie Loomis was always one of my favorites. And the reason was he was just such a neat character. Carlin was just really good at playing him. And he was so tragic and sweet in the role, a complete switch from the original character, who was kind of like an alcoholic thug of a guy. And with what he does with releasing Barnabas, due to looking for jewels and being a greedy bastard, the switch in him is like watching a kicked puppy. And Carlin was just really great at that role. And with Dark Shadows, what was great about watching these actors in the show, and especially Carlin, was his ability to go into different characters within the series. But it wasn't just, he wasn't just known for Dark Shadows. Just going through the history of what he'd done, and just the prolific history of TV work that he had done, and film work, is just staggering. He recently, and you can watch this on Amazon Prime. It is free to watch on there. Master of the Shadows, the Dan Curtis documentary, is on there right now, and you can. John Carlin is interviewed for that. His health took a turn about a few months ago, and unfortunately, the congestive heart failure caught him, and it's just tragic. But the other places, if you have not watched Dark Shadows, that you would recognize him from, definitely would be Cagney and Lacey. He played Lacey's husband in the show, and he would come back for the TV movies as well as that. But the other one that you may not know about was he played in, after Dark Shadows went off the air and House of Dark Shadows happened, which was the feature film version of the vampire story, followed up by the David Selby led Night of Dark Shadows, which is kind of the Angelique storyline. He was in a vampire film called Daughters of Darkness, which is an iconic European vampire film, where he plays the abusive. It's just such a bizarre movie and beautifully shot. But Carlin plays this closeted playboy type who's married to this young, beautiful woman, and they get seduced by a female vampire, and things happen. And it's a very bizarre film, very beautifully shot. Definitely Euro. But it was interesting to see him go from Willie and his roles in Dark Shadows and to this part, which was so overt and different. But Carlin was just a great actor, and he had recently returned to the role in Big Finish Audio in the UK, led by David Selby's um, son Jameson, who was named after a character in the series. Actually, have gotten almost every original cast member that's alive to be in these audio dramatizations that continue the story of Dark Shadows. And John Carlin had returned to play Willie Loomis in those. Um, so it's a very sad day for Dark Shadows fans because we've lost another icon from the series. Only a few years ago, we had lost Jonathan Frid, who played Barnabas. So this is just a very sad day. I didn't want not to take away from the loss of Terry Jones from Monty Python. I didn't want to take away from that, but I also so many people um, so many people know Monty Python and know Terry Jones, and we're following that. And I didn't want John Carlin lost in the shuffle because it's a loss, and not to take away from Terry Jones, but I get a feeling that this may not be talked about as much. And kind of like what happened when Freddie Mercury passed and Eric Carr from Kiss died pretty much the same day. He kind of got buried under the Freddie Mercury love, which nothing, please don't take away from Freddie Mercury. But when it's someone that I've grown up with and I respect their work, I want it to be known. That was kind of what bothered me with Darren McGavin passing, because it kind of got tossed to the wayside of, oh, the dad from A Christmas Story died, or he was Murphy Brown's father, and that was like a footnote. And he was, I actually plan on doing an episode or a video about Darren McGavin's work in the Night Stalker, because I want these things to teach people about things they may never have heard of, and that's why I'm bringing up Dark Shadows so much, is because John Carlin, Jonathan Frid, Louis Edmonds, all of these actors and actresses, Catherine Lee Scott, all of these actors and actresses that created Dark Shadows, you would not have most of the vampire entertainment that you have today if it hadn't been for Dark Shadows. Dark Shadows led the way with the anti-hero vampire. It led the way to having all of these characters and stories and folklores on your television in a format like it was. And so I want the respect to be given to Dark Shadows, because so many people these days forget what got us here. To the point that Entertainment Weekly, and to this day, I will bring this up, Entertainment Weekly, on their greatest TV vampire poll or list, didn't include Barnabas Collins, who was the first TV vampire. They left him off. What the shit? I don't know how you do that. I'm sorry. I'll never forget that or forgive them for that to the end of my days. But the reason I'm also bringing it up is the CW is going to be attempting another version of Dark Shadows. They have a pilot that they never aired, that they did oh gosh, 10 years ago, that they actually got rid of. The reason Angel got taken off the air was because they were going to put this Dark Shadows show on that they were doing, and they ended up not doing it. So we sacrificed Angel to reattempt it again. And so you're going to be hearing more about Dark Shadows. This time around, supposedly it's a continuation of the series and not a redo. So I just want to make sure that you're aware of what Dark Shadows is. So if you don't know what Dark Shadows is, or if you've never watched it, it is an American show. Some people, for some reason, think it was a British show. It wasn't. This was all American based, and it's one of those shows that's on the same level as Doctor Who when it comes to it was filmed in one take most of the time, unless something really horrible happened and they restarted. It is on Amazon Prime. There is also the redo that was done on NBC that you would be able to watch on Amazon Prime as well, that aired for one season and is very good. But yes, you can watch Dark Shadows on Amazon Prime. I think the entire series is on there now. And it's a soap opera. There's a ton of episodes. It was on for a good while. And if you want to revisit or be introduced to Dark Shadows, you can do so now. And see John Carlin play this wonderful character who starts out as such a sleazy punk, alcoholic jerk, become this little nervous puppy that is the heart and soul of the show for a lot of it. He's made to do things he doesn't want to do, and he was really great at conveying this nervous energy of Willie Loomis in the show, and he was just a great actor. And if you haven't watched Dark Shadows, I strongly suggest it. Know that it's a lot of watching, but it's an interesting. Basically, what Dan Curtis and the guys that created this show did was they took all of the classic Gothic literature and made the plot points of the soap opera based around these classic Gothic tales. And it's amazing because you've got Dracula, you've got Frankenstein, you've got Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Wuthering Heights is in there. You've got H.P. Lovecraft in there. There's so many different plots that were taken from these classic novels that are mixed in to this. And it's a good way to celebrate the life of John Carlin. Of course, you could watch Cagney and Lacey. His IMDb list is just massive. He was in a lot of stuff, but it's mainly he did a lot of work on television, and you'll recognize him if you don't know who I'm talking about. The minute you see him, you'll be like, "Oh yeah, that guy." But to me, forever, he's always going to be tied to Dark Shadows and the role of Willie Loomis that he created. So thank you, John Carlin, for the work that you gave us. Thank you for helping create one of the staples of my life and my love of all things Gothic and vampy. And, thank you. So rest in peace. And thank you guys for listening. And I will be back another time with another video. This time talking about the Night Stalker. I've got that planned on my list of things to do, and I can't wait to talk about that with you because that's something that everybody needs to watch because it gave birth to the X-Files. So see you soon and talk to you later. Bye, guys.